Hey everyone! Greetings from Brno, from South Moravia, here in the Czech Republic. We are on week whatever of this quarantine. It feels like it's been months. It's been about 1 month here in Brno that we've been housebound. I hope everyone's dealing with it all right. I know times are super tough, but I'm here to cheer you up with a little wine. It's the least I can do from my living room here in Brno. But before I begin, I do want to share something kind of personal. So the past 16 months, my husband and I have lived in this apartment. And about a few months ago, I realized we have 3 photos on our wall that we brought from Raleigh from our wedding. And it's kind of depressing. We don't have anything on our wall. So a few months ago, I had this idea to get some photos professionally framed that we've taken over the past year and a half, to kind of cheer up the apartment a little bit, to make it a little bit more personal. And so, if you don't know me by now, now you know. I absolutely adore our neighbors that live downstairs, Ota and Harold, and they've quickly become my best friends here in Brno, and they helped me out. They helped me pick out some photos and contact a framer, and so they came today. So just want to share one of them with you all when times were great. So this is one from Vienna, just a quick selfie we took at Stephansplatz. So a reminder of maskless times when times were good and we were having fun. So I'm excited to hang these on the wall, considering we're spending a lot of time at home, and the more happiness I see around me, I feel like it rubs off. So something to stay positive in these really difficult times. So going into today's wine video, I'm excited to talk about a grape that many people don't really like. A lot of people do, don't get me wrong. Millions of people around the world adore this grape, but there is a small segment of people that are the ABC, anything but Chardonnay. And it's unfortunate because I feel like you're missing out. This grape can be so beautiful and delicate and terroir driven. So today's video focuses on Chardonnay from South Moravia, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it here, featuring 2 producers that I really admire, and I've actually both met personally, which is always nice. So talking a little bit about Chardonnay, it is a very old grape. It's indigenous to Burgundy in France, where it's known as Bourgogne Blanc, or Chablis. If you've ever had a Chablis, you've had Chardonnay. It's made in sparkling wine and champagne, but it's also grown in practically every country around the world. It is the number 2 most widely planted white grape variety in the world. It's grown from everywhere, from South Africa to Turkey to Greece to Australia to, of course, California. So it's a grape that is widely grown because it's fairly easy to grow. The grape is very vigorous. It grows very well, and it's adaptable to many different climates and soil types. It's taken on the name the workhorse grape because of this fact. However, there are some factors to Chardonnay, the grape itself, that can lend itself to over-yielding, overcropping, and of course, over-oaking, which is the Achilles heel for Chardonnay, if you will. Chardonnay needs small yields. It needs to be very carefully nurtured on the vine and in the winery in order to have its terroir character come through. In and of itself, Chardonnay is fairly neutral. It has aromas of green apple and lemon, but it takes on a lot of the characters from both the soil and the maturation vessel you're using, whether it be oak or stainless steel or concrete. So, like I said, Chardonnay can be quite malleable. It can be a chameleon to where it's grown. South Moravia here has an abundance of limestone soil, particularly in Mikolov and Velké Pavlovice. So Chardonnay grows very well on this particular soil type. We share the same soil type as Burgundy in the Loire Valley and Champagne, hence Chardonnay's incredible expression here in South Moravia in Brno. So going into today's wine video, like I said, I met both of these producers at different times. They have completely different styles of winemaking, different intents on what they want to do. But I like to show contrast in my wine videos, of course. That's the whole point of wine tasting, to taste those differences. So the first wine I'm going to be showcasing today is from Richard Tichy. So I'll hold the bottle up here. This is a Chardonnay 2015. Richard Tichy is from a village called Hrušky, which means pear, in Velké Pavlovice. It's in the Břeclav district. Funny story about Richard Tichy, the winemaker here. So it was about this time, last April, that I was invited to be a wine judge in Valtice for the Vínex International Wine Competition. It was my first wine competition. I was a nervous wreck. I was super anxious. You can read all about it on my blog if you like. But I sat down. I had 4 other judges at the table, and Richard Tichy was one of the judges. And if you can believe it, my Czech was even more awful a year ago than it is today. So unfortunately, we couldn't really communicate as much as I would have liked. I didn't realize he was a winemaker, but he was super kind, accommodating, really friendly. And a few weeks ago, probably, more like a month ago now, maybe 2 months ago, I realized that there was a wine tasting featuring wines from Richard Tichy. Of course, I'd seen the labels at Vinoteku Tři Knížat, and I thought, I'd really want to taste these wines, and I want to meet the winemaker, of course. So I signed up, I show up, I sit down, and who walks through the door? Richard Tichy. So we kind of had a laugh about it. I don't think that I realized who he was, and he didn't realize who I was. So we put 2 and 2 together, and I really adore his wines. So his family has been making wine for centuries. His great-grandfather had plots in the late 1800s, apparently from the Liechtenstein family. I mean, they go way, way back. Richard his first vintage was in 2001. However, his vineyards are older than that. This Chardonnay is sourced from a plot that has vines dating back from 1962. He makes wine every year. However, each year, of course, with those varietal differences and vintage differences, he decides to fashion the wine and mature the wine in a different way. So this particular wine, the 2015 Chardonnay, does not see any oak maturation. There is no oak involved in this wine. What he explained to me was that the grapes were harvested in early October. They were brought to a pneumatic press where they were very gently pressed. The wine was then racked off the big lees, the gross lees, put into a concrete vessel where it matured for 9 months. The concrete vessel is around 1,000 liters. I mean, I'm talking a big, big concrete vessel. The wine remains on fine lees with no batonnage, but what those fine lees do is help protect the wine against any microbial or bacteria that could potentially spoil the wine or any oxidation that could happen to the wine. So his Chardonnay is a really clean varietal expression of Chardonnay at its finest from South Moravia. The wine is picked Vibierzy-Hroznu, so it is picked a little bit later, like I said, in early October. Chardonnay is a fairly early ripening grape, so that is quite a late harvest to have Chardonnay so late in the season, particularly in 2015, which was a slightly warmer vintage. Going into his wine, I'm so excited to show his wine on my video today and to have met the winemaker twice, unknowingly once. Pretty cool. So his Chardonnay has a medium intensity on the color, nice lemon color. The wine is clear. There's no fault or haziness in the wine. And a really clean, fruity expression of yellow apple, yellow pear. There's a slight floral note to it as well. Kind of like acacia flowers. There's a slight, almost a toffee note to it. Not coffee, but toffee note to it on the nose. Not quite caramely, but slightly nutty, like almonds, walnuts. But really clean, Shows a nice, almost saline quality on the nose too, like a saltiness on the nose. Let's give it a taste. Medium body, really angular acidity, really clean, medium plus acidity, nice concentration. Again, that yellow apple, yellow pear really comes through, very yellow fruited, some lemon, really clean expression of Chardonnay. I could totally picture this with a really nice fried trout and some maybe pickled onions, I think would be really nice with it. But if I were blind, I would call that a really simple Bourgogne Blanc. I wouldn't even believe that this came from South Moravia. There's no tropical fruit note to it, despite being harvested so late, where I can imagine the sugar content was quite high. There's very little residual sugar in the wine. I think under a gram of residual sugar is the statistic that he gave to me. So interesting to see this beautiful expression of Chardonnay, a grape that is highly debatable back in the States, but a great expression of the pure varietal character that you can get. And just so clean and vibrant and fresh. And it's a 2015. It's got 5 years of bottle age, so still showing great character. And I can imagine the aging potential for this wine, probably another 3-4 years. I think it would really soften and develop a little bit more of that nutty character that it's starting to show. So great wines from Richard Tichy. Always a pleasure to show a new winemaker that I just recently met. Like I said, he's been making wine for years, but happy to show him here. And maybe some importer out there, hint, hint, will find out about him too. His wines are great. So going into the second wine, which is a completely different beast than Richard Tichy's clean, fruit-driven, varietal Chardonnay, is Ota Ševčík. So Ota Ševčík, I've had the pleasure also of meeting a few times. A winemaker who's been making wine since 1992. It's when he bottled his first vintage of Vetlinsky Zelené back in the day. Ota Ševčík is responsible for creating this authenticist movement, this natural wine movement here in South Moravia. And right now he farms 2 hectares of land with his wife, very small production. He makes about maybe 15,000 bottles a year. Ota Ševčík does export to the UK. So if you are living in the UK, contact Basket Press Wines. They do import Ota Ševčík's wines. I highly recommend them. This is a natural wine through and through. Ota Ševčík does not fine his wine. He does not clarify his wine. He does not filter his wine. He believes in the true expression of Chardonnay, or the grape that he grows, be it Frankowka, Pinot Noir, Hibernal, etc. He wants that varietal character to shine. So, going into Ota Ševčík's wines, which coincidentally, they are down the road from each other. They are both in Velké Pavlovice. Ota Ševčík's winery is in Božetice. And as I mentioned, Richard Tichy's winery is in Hrušky, meaning pear. So the two are maybe 10 minutes away drive. Totally different expressions of Chardonnay, so pretty cool. So his Ota Ševčík Chardonnay, going into it now, a slightly deeper color, deeper golden color. The wine does have a slight cloudiness to it. The wine is unfiltered, so it's totally normal. If you pick up Ota Ševčík's wines, you will not have this clear, star-bright wine. You will always have a slight cloudiness to the wine. The wine is fine. It has just not been filtered, hence that cloudiness in the wine that you might find. But, I mean, just the wine is so pronounced on the nose, I don't even have to put my nose into the glass. It's really just lifting out. Ota Ševčík does do a bit of wood maturation on his wine. When he makes the Chardonnay, half of the wine is matured in stainless steel and half is matured in 600-liter acacia barrels. He then blends the two together to create his Chardonnay. And what that does, it lends itself well because the stainless steel gives that acidity, whereas the acacia barrel does lend itself to a little bit more richness and spice and oak character. This wine is like caramel popcorn. It is nutty and rich and vanilla. And there's that caramely toffee note to it. I mean, if you've ever had those huge tins of caramel popcorn or like butterscotch popcorn around the holidays, they're super popular in the US. That is this wine. It is just a mouthful. Totally my style too. You still get fruit. You still get that baked pear note to it. Both of these wines do have fruit character, whereas Richard Tichys shows more of that fruit on the nose. Ota Ševčík does have more of that acacia influence because of that acacia maturation, of course. Let's give it a taste. But just so textured and rich, like baked apples with cinnamon and caramel. And again, that popcorn nutty notes really coming through. There's still acidity. This wine still has a medium acidity. So it is not this oak bomb, this creamy butter bomb that you might be familiar with back in the US with butter Chardonnay. This is bright and lovely and floral. There's cardamom notes on the palate too. This wine is just screaming for like a paprika chicken, something a little bit heavier. Even a roast turkey would hold up to this wine. It is pork, some pork ribs or something. This wine is rich and textured and heavy. Whereas Richard Tichys, both Chardonnay, literally like 10 kilometers away from one another, but completely different expressions, whereas Richard's is a little bit more angular and steely and nervy with that acidity. Ota's is a bit more creamy and rounded and more of that caramely popcorn note. Both wines are available in Brno, so go to Vinoteca u Tří Knížat. You can pick up either of these. Both are from excellent winemakers. I really admire what they're doing here in South Moravia. The movement towards this incredible low intervention winemaking is so important. And making great Chardonnay, of course, one of my favorite grapes. So I hope everyone can enjoy a little bit of this weekend. And if you're feeling isolated or bored, on Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a virtual wine tasting, my first ever, and I think Brno's first English virtual wine tasting. I will be broadcasting on Facebook Live, so you can go ahead and like my Facebook Civil Wines page. Watch along on Wednesday at 7 o'clock, April 8th. I'll be pouring 6 different wines. I've been working in collaboration with Vino Club Brno. Really so thankful that they support me, support Civil Wines. I have 20 wine lovers signed up for this, so excited to share in the wine love here in Brno. So cheers to Chardonnay. Thank you for signing up for my virtual wine tasting. I look forward to tasting with you all. Buy some Chardonnay. Just buy Chardonnay from a producer that you know that knows how to work with Chardonnay, and you will not be disappointed. So cheers from Brno. Cheers to Chardonnay. I ain't part of that ABC crowd. I hope everyone enjoys the weekend. Cheers.